Shout out to this guy.
Who's talking here? That's not you.
The reason he left this comment was because I did sound different in the video he commented in. I sounded like this. The reason that I sounded like this, and one half of the reason we're discussing politics, is because I'm transgender. This isn't news, I've been on HRT for 5 months. But the other half of the reason we're discussing politics is because of this tweet by Stuart Kism, who is the president of Hi-Rez Studios. Although Evil Mojo and Paladins are fairly independent of Hi-Rez nowadays, they are still under their umbrella, and you'll see that Stuart Kism, aka Schism, aka Stu, is very involved in the development of Smite 2. So Stu has been influencing something very important to me for a very long time. A Smite ambassador named Tempest posted this tweet. An off-putting joke about an assassination attempt, a conspiracy theory, a comment on a political figure, and then backpedaling on the language used in the initial tweet as more information came out. Now, let's get one thing straight. Twitter is garbage for discussion. So, especially without having the full context regarding the assassination attempt, we won't. What I want to do is show that Stu's response is nonsense. I want to show that it's nonsense because it's incorrect, harmful, and relevant to me. We will address each of the 7 points in the tweet one by one. Within the Smite ecosystem, ambassadors are unpaid community members and content creators that have access to a special Discord, as well as occasional access to play early builds of the game to give feedback to the developers. Ambassadors are neither employees nor contractors of Hi-Rez, and as such, I want to be careful to not over-police their actions or politics, or make directed attacks at the people that volunteer their time to the game and the community. He comments on what ambassadors are. For clarity, I am a Paladins partner, which is the equivalent of a Smite ambassador. My last video is one of these playtests of early builds. Stu doesn't want to over-police these volunteers who care deeply about the game, which makes sense. These people are here to provide feedback, and that's that. That said, calls for violence and assassination are never okay. I would hope this would be a very uncontroversial statement. Never is a strong word, but again, this is Twitter. Literal meanings should be taken with a grain of salt. What he means is, as he says, hopefully uncontroversial. I'm very thankful that President Trump is okay, and his strength and defiance in that moment, in my opinion, was impressive, regardless of personal politics. I grieve for the families of the innocent bystanders who were killed and injured. At this very combustible time in our country, the assassination of a major political figure would have been devastating and only sowed more division and hate on all sides. I'm going to make something I initially thought of doing for this video. For context, Trump raised his head and pumped his fist while he was being escorted away after the shots. I would argue that his actions were not impressive. As the primary Paladins expert of repeaking snipers, this might have had the potential to ruin his KDA. This is something I decided not to put in because, although commentary on political figures is normal and allowed to try and be funny, this joke is insensitive and detracts from the overall point that I want to make. The point I want to make here is that sometimes people think stupid things, and sometimes they act on those thoughts, only to regret them later, like posting a poorly worded tweet. If I were to rephrase my intended meaning, I would say that I believe that when you have just been shot at, doing anything but running for your life is a poor decision. The potential to score some political points is not worth risking your life, and commending this choice of action is stupid. I could be misunderstanding the implications of the tweet. Trump was back on stage at the Republican National Convention a few days later, and this could be what Stu is referring to. It's not possible to know from the tweet. So I'm either disagreeing with or misunderstanding Stu here. I'm not going to jump to conclusions. And the same courtesy should be extended to Tempest. Stu comments on the bystanders killed, which is tragic, of course, and we've already agreed political violence is bad. Now we're going to stop talking about Tempest, and we're going to put a pin in sowed more division, more hate on all sides, before we read out the next point. Real diversity should mean accepting and respecting a wide range of political beliefs across the entire political spectrum, left, right, and center. While there are obvious moral lines that all good citizens of the world should uphold, our politics have become far too divided. Too many people have lost the ability to recognize that this is a vast and diverse nation with hundreds of millions of people. One of the most powerful things we can do is agree to disagree on certain things, and instead focus on the things that can unite us all and make all of our lives better. There's way too much focus these days on what divides us and not what unites us. There's a funny little contradiction here that is clear enough that it cannot be misunderstood. We'll get to it. Bonus points if you can spot it now. Stu says unity is good, of course. Unity is a good thing. People are overall very cool. Games exist in the context of the times they are created in, and thus are hard to make entirely apolitical. But no other medium brings so many people from across the world together and in contact with each other. Where possible, we should make our games a place where people from all sides of the political spectrum can come together and recognize their commonalities, versus a vehicle for further division and hate. If you want to bring everyone together and unity is good, well, you're the president of Hi-Rez. Unban everyone. All the cheaters, everyone who's dropped a slur, every toxic player across all Hi-Rez games. Unban them in the name of bringing everyone together. This is obviously rhetorical. No one thinks this is a good idea, seemingly including Stu. Why? In a similar way to how you cannot tolerate toxic players, we cannot tolerate intolerance. These ideas are incorrect and harmful. I don't think anyone should care what my political opinions are, and we focus too much sometimes on what the people that create things we enjoy believe. But if you do care what my personal politics are for some reason, they are very centrist, which is sadly not a place that a lot of political figures stand at the moment. I want to reiterate that this video is not about Tempest comments, even with it being a tweet and with the benefit of the doubt. At the bare minimum, it's not a very kind tweet. This video is showing that Stu presenting this idea that, while there are obvious moral lines that all good citizens of the world should uphold, our politics have become too far divided, because there's way too much focus these days on what divides us and not what unites us, is incorrect and harmful. I also believe that you should care about what the people who create your media believe. If I purchased Hogwarts Legacy, J.K. Rowling would have put some of that money towards hurting trans people. I believe supporting this cause is morally wrong, so to avoid doing so, I care about what the people who create the media I consume believe. The fact that these relatively mundane, bland, and centrist opinions will likely be twisted by persons on both sides of the political spectrum for likes and engagement are further evidence of the problems we have, in my opinion. Now, if you've guessed by now, I lean a little left. To be fair, that's partly because I'm Canadian. I was doomed from the start. But I don't want to let Stu hide behind an accusation of dishonesty aimed at whoever may disagree with him for any potential reason in the future if it happens. Rather than get into the entirety of American politics, I want to focus on one issue because we don't have all day, it's relevant to me, and it ties back nicely to the start of the video. Viewer discretion is advised for discussion of suicide. I've made the argument that we cannot tolerate intolerance. Bigotry is incorrect and harmful. Stu's tweet tolerates bigotry by presenting both sides as equal because the Republican Party's proposed policies are bigoted.
The left-wing gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth.
This is incorrect.
No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago.
This is incorrect as well, and also gives me a chance to talk about my favorite 14th century Jewish prayer, which features the lines, "Woe to me, my mother, that you ever bore a son. Cursed be the one who announced to my father, it's a boy. Oh, but had the artisan who made me created me instead a worthy woman, who would then transform me from a man to a woman?" There are other confirmed and potential examples as well.
My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding. I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. And we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parent's consent. The identity will not be new, and it will not be without parental consent.
This is harmful. Gender-affirming care, including puberty suppression and hormone therapy, is potentially life-saving. Enacting these policies would result in a higher number of children committing suicide. Or maybe the Republican Party just knows something that their own country's doctors and the World Health Organization don't. Who knows? Anyways, I am not going to agree to disagree with people who would take actions based in falsehoods that will result in the death of children. That is incorrect, harmful, and should not be tolerated. This is a moral line that all good citizens of the world should uphold. Being dishonest about this divide between the two American political parties by presenting them as equal is incorrect, harmful, and should not be tolerated. I'm Canadian, so it might seem strange to make a video on American politics, but with Pierre Poilievre likely being our next Prime Minister, and him taking a fair bit after the Republican Party in some ways, it worries me. I hope there are enough good citizens of the world voting in the upcoming US election and the next Canadian election. Thank you for watching. This is something I think is important. Regular programming will return shortly. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.